Today is the 24th of August. Therefore, I put on a cozy sweater, went to Starbucks, and got my first pumpkin chai latte of this season. Put it in my Luke's mug to romanticize it even more. Yes, it is iced because it is still close to 100 degrees outside. But the start of fall is not dependent on the weather. No, it is a state of mind, a state of well-being. Plus, it's almost September, so I don't care what the temperature is. It is fall. Also, I know I said I was gonna stick with my blonde hair and not change it anymore, but it just didn't feel right. Pumpkin Spice Desi is back and she's here to stay. So let's talk about some ways to romanticize fall. Books, movies, podcasts, recipes, everything you need to surround yourself with the fall vibes no matter what the temperature is outside. So let's start with movies. I won't have You've Got Mail or Dead Poet Society on this list because I've recommended them before. I will have my autumn playlist linked down below so you can go check out all my previous recommendations. There is one film that I'm going to re-recommend because it is my favorite fall movie and I really just want you all to watch it because it is so good, and that is The Odd Life of Timothy Green. When I say this movie is wholesome, it is cozy, it is so autumnal. If you want to see red, orange, yellow leaves, a fort out in the woods made of leaves. Very reminiscent of, I feel like, Anne's fort in Anne of Green Gables, or Anne with an E. Same type of vibe. I feel like you might really love this movie if you love Anne of Green Gables. The movie follows a couple who has been trying to conceive a baby for years, and they get the news that it's probably not going to happen. One night, they decide that it's time to be done and move on with their lives. But before they do that, they sit down and they write down all of the things, all of the personality traits that they think their future child would have had. Afterwards, they put all the papers into a wood box and go out to bury it in the garden. But then that night, something incredible happens, and I won't go into any more details because I don't want to spoil anything, but it is so good. This is the movie for me that it doesn't feel like fall until I watch it. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit spooky, but also very funny, family-friendly, set in New Orleans during fall, there's a Halloween party, then I highly recommend you watch the new Haunted Mansion movie. If you've seen the original and like it, I think you will love this one. And if you've seen the original and love it, I think you will also like this one. And if you've seen the original and not really enjoyed it, I think you still might love this one. It's slightly similar to the original story, but it's a whole new story in and of itself. While I think the original one was set during summer, this one is set during fall, and while you might think that this is just a spooky movie, at the heart of it is love and grief and loss and working through difficult times to become stronger and happier on the other side. One second you're laughing out loud, the next you're getting tears in your eyes, and the next you see a ghost and it's a little bit spooky. Not scary, just slightly like fun spooky. One of the things I love most about it is that it pays homage to the ride at Disneyland in such a beautiful, authentic way. This one might be great to watch in October, closer to Halloween, as the end of the movie does take place during a Halloween party. It's so incredible. I really highly recommend it. So we've covered cozy, we've covered slightly spooky, but maybe you were more of a fan of golden age Hollywood, black and white films. To you I say, have you ever seen Arsenic and Old Lace? Because if you haven't, you are in for such a treat. The title is amazing. I love it. This movie is perfect to watch on a brisk September evening. You curl up with a warm blanket. Just the fact that Cary Grant is in it is enough reason to watch. It follows newly married Mortimer Brewster as he is visiting his two aunts in Brooklyn, New York. To everyone, they are sweet, caring, gentle old ladies. But Mortimer soon discovers they are actually serial killers. And what's worse is their latest victim's body is hidden in a chest in their living room, you know, where anyone can find it. So Mortimer does his best to dispose of the evidence, but his plans are interrupted when his psychopathic brother, who's also a serial killer, arrives with his surgeon, Dr. Einstein. Kind of remind me of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. And you might be thinking like, oh, this is a movie about murder and serial killers. That's scary, that's probably not for me. But it is so funny. It is laugh out loud funny. And Cary Grant offers such an amazing performance. There's just something about the way movies from the 40s and 50s feel when you watch them. It's such like a nice break from the type of content that we usually consume and watch in movies now. I also rewatch this one every fall.
Why, hello there. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I love Native, and I'm so grateful to be partnering with them on this video. As I've been preparing for fall, I have transitioned to using fall scents wherever I can. I am obsessed with their incredibly large range of scents, not only for deodorant, but body wash. Their body wash. We have never gone back to using a different body wash since using Native. And Native just released their new fall collection featuring scents of the Southwest autumn. I just got honey and saguaro, desert grass and sandalwood, and my personal favorite, coastal oak and amber. This one smells like walking through like a misty forest. They're made of clean, effective, and simple ingredients that are phthalate-free and dye-free, cruelty-free, and vegan, and include citric acid for pH balance. They leave your skin feeling so soft and buttery, and they easily froth up into a luxurious lather without any sulfates, perfect for a cozy bubble bath on a fall morning. 3 body washes would normally be $27, but you can use the link down in my description box and my code. You can get them for $18. That is 33% off. Again, the link will be down in the description box. Again, a big thank you to Native for sponsoring this video.
When I was choosing what books to recommend to you guys this year, my criteria is quite intense. Ultimately, the vibes just need to scream fall. And these books do that so well. The first one is Ravenfall by Caitlin Josephson. With this one, you've got pumpkin root beer, Halloween dances in ballrooms, the setting of a cozy bed and breakfast in a town full of magical residents, a sentient house with quite a strong personality, lots of Earl Grey tea and pumpkin spice lattes, slipping on brown socks with little pumpkins embroidered on them, drinking hot apple cider while wrapped in knit blankets in the library. This book is the perfect combination of spooky and cozy. It follows Annabella and her psychic family as they run the Ravenfall Inn, this beautiful, sprawling bed and breakfast. The town is at the crossroads of the human world and the other world where magic folk live. So the inn sees both humans and magical folk alike. One day, a boy named Colin arrives, searching for his missing brother and the supernatural creatures that killed his parents. Anna immediately decides to help him, but soon realizes the mysteries surrounding Colin are a bit darker than she expected. So they team up and need to find this supernatural creature by Samhain, or else it might be too late. This book brims with Celtic mythology. They celebrate Samhain instead of Halloween, which I think is unique because usually you see Halloween in books. So I love the focus on Samhain. Have some pastries or something on hand because this book will have you craving food. Speaking of food, this next book has recipes after every chapter where magic is woven into food and bakery items. The perfect blend of Gilmore Girls and practical magic. I have read a lot of witchy books and a lot of Gilmore Girls-ish books, but this book is like the best combo that I could have thought possible. And that book is The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall. While I enjoyed this story, the vibes and the aesthetic are what sealed the deal for me. Immediately upon reading the first chapter, I felt like I was in a magical version of Stars Hollow. It's incredibly heartwarming and cozy, and I really love the way magic is woven into this story. Magic comes at a price, and for Sadie, that price looks like 4 heartbreaks in her lifetime. She has already experienced 2 of them, and she's always thought that it's worth it because her magic is worth it. I did not expect to cry as much as I did at the end of this book. This was a pumpkin spice latte of a book. So warm and witchy. I highly recommend it. I recommend this next book with caution. I gave it 3 stars. But at the same time, I could not stop thinking about it, and it put me in a reading slump because I wanted to read another book so similar to it for the vibes, the aesthetic, the feels, but at the same time, I didn't love like a lot of the book. I'm still figuring out how I really feel about it. This is a retelling of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but from Katrina von Tassel's perspective. I love this one so much for the late 1700s setting in Sleepy Hollow and the twists that it takes on the original story. And that book is The Spellbook of Katrina von Tassel, A Story of Sleepy Hollow by Alyssa Palombo. I'll just say right now, this is a romance book. Sweeping romance, but also an eerie thriller at the same time. The middle of this book is quite repetitive. I found myself laughing when I would pick it up and see the same things happening again and again. But the beginning and the end and just throughout the story, I couldn't put it down. I don't know what chokehold this had on me. I just remember being up late at night reading, feeling like I had to know what was happening next. I had to keep reading. This is an open door romance, so there are some spicy scenes, which you can honestly just skip if you're not into that, because the rest of the story is really good. So it follows Ichabod Crane as he arrives in Sleepy Hollow and starts teaching at the local schoolhouse. Him and Katrina Von Tassel meet because he is staying at Katrina's family home, which is like the main farm in Sleepy Hollow. Her father always takes in people who are traveling through. So they hit it off, and this deep romance blossoms between both of them until one night on All Hallows Eve, Ichabod goes missing. She enlists the help of her best friend Charlotte, who is rumored in the village to be a witch, to seek the truth of Ichabod's disappearance. Was it really the Headless Horseman, or was someone else trying to run Ichabod out of Sleepy Hollow? If you're a fan of Sleepy Hollow or romance, give this one a try. I couldn't put it down. This book might have one of the prettiest covers I've ever seen, which is funny because the content in the book is quite morbid, and it is Murder Your Employer, McMaster's Guide to Homicide by Rupert Holmes. I saw another reviewer say this, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's hard to believe that a book exclusively about murder has the right to be so wonderfully wholesome. Think Hogwarts meets a series of unfortunate events. That's the best way I can describe this. Replace the classes about magic with classes about poison and how to carry out a successful deletion, aka murder. All wrapped in the aesthetic of a university in the 1940s. It's a dark, witty, macabre story about a man named Cliff who tries to unsuccessfully murder his boss because he is a bad guy. But instead of getting arrested like he probably should have, he gets snatched up by the dean of the McMaster's Conservatory, which is an extremely prestigious school where students learn the homicidal arts. The story follows Cliff and two other students as they learn the various arts of a successful deletion. I laughed out loud probably more times than a normal person should have while reading this. It's definitely more of an acquired taste when it comes to the story. I just thought it was hilarious and I had the best time reading it. And then I have an honorable mention that I like to include, and that is Awakening Anne by Caitlin Applewhite. The very first thing that drew me to this book was the cover. This book reads like an episode of Supernatural. If you've ever seen that TV show, every episode is like a different mystery about a supernatural creature. This story follows Margaret Ward, who seems to be your typical heiress living a charmed life. But behind the doors of her parlor, she explores the secrets of the unknown and her talents as a medium. One day, she holds a seance for a grieving widower, and that's when she learns about some dark secrets about his wife's death. Her and the widower and a scientist go over to his house, which he now believes is haunted. And that's exactly where it feels like a Supernatural episode. They're trying to figure out, is it actually haunted? And if it is, what does the ghost want? It was very good. Now, TV shows can be a crucial part when it comes to surrounding yourself with fall vibes, because you can just turn on a show, put it in the background. Like, you don't want to commit to a movie, so you put on an episode of a show. I have been watching this show and quite honestly really loving, and I don't see anybody else talking about it. It's on Netflix and it involves witches and werewolves, freshman university life. It's so good, and it's called The Order. The show is really good, but honestly, I watch it for the side characters, Hamish and Randall. I would die for them. So it follows a boy named Jack, whose sole purpose in life has been getting into this prestigious university and then being like indicted into the secret society. His grandpa has been helping him in the pursuit of this because supposedly members of the secret society killed his mom. He is out for revenge. He gets involved with hunting a werewolf and becomes a werewolf himself in the process. Little does he know there are werewolves on campus that call themselves the Knights of St. Christopher, and they protect the campus from bad magic. So now he's kind of a double agent. He's a werewolf, but also in the secret society, and he wants to take down the secret society. Why aren't more people talking about this? It's such a great watch if you're wanting to watch something that kind of feels like back to school Vampire Diaries, but like more funny. It is so funny. Just give it a watch. If you're in the mood for something more wholesome and nostalgic that reminds you of Halloween and fall as a kid, something that's never gonna let you down, it's gotta be Scooby-Doo. I am such a Scooby-Doo fangirl. It's either that one or Gilmore Girls that I have on in the background all the time. If you've never watched Scooby-Doo, it's a group of friends that go out and they solve mysteries, usually involving ghosts or supernatural creatures. And it always turns out that there's a logical explanation behind it. I highly recommend choosing a morning, stay in your pajamas, make something pumpkin spice for breakfast, like pancakes or muffins or oatmeal. Open the windows, let in that fall light, and turn on a Scooby-Doo episode. And you can thank me later. The last TV show I have to recommend is like the perfect blend of The Addams Family meets The Great British Baking Show. It's called The Curious Creations of Christine O'Donnell. I actually know about Christine because of her YouTube channel. She lives in a beautifully Gothic mansion in New York. She is so talented, and I never knew she had a show on Netflix. Basically, she makes these edible creations of spooky things like bones, or she makes like a gingerbread house, but it's like a haunted house version. I could never do that, but she also makes it look so easy if you want to do it yourself. It's just so great. Definitely go check it out if you haven't watched it yet. So you've got the books, you've got the movies, you've got the TV shows, but wait, there's more. So many more things you can be doing to really get the fall vibes going. Light scented candles, especially in the morning, because then your house will smell like that for the rest of the day. You can stick with the usual pumpkin spice or apple cinnamon, but there are so many more niche ways you can romanticize scented candles. Like you can get the Stars Hollow candle from the Library Lights Candle Company, I think that's what they're called. It smells exactly how I imagine Stars Hollow would smell. Or Mythology Candles have candles that smell like haunted castles and old libraries. They have one that's called Gaelic Feast, and I don't know how they put it in a candle, but it smells like having a feast in a Scottish castle. So you can choose a niche or something that you're a fangirl of and light a scented candle that will make you feel like those things. Then you gotta get an oversized knit sweater. You can find amazing ones at the thrift store, especially in the men's section. There's something about slipping it on that it makes me feel like Rory Gilmore. I don't know what magic these sweaters have, but they make you just feel so good. Pumpkin flavored everything. There are tons of recipes that include pumpkin or pumpkin spice, and if you don't have pumpkin spice, I know there are recipes on how you can make it using things like cloves and nutmeg and things like that, but that's something that you can implement in your daily life to make it feel a bit more like fall, even if the weather outside is not. And then a You've Got Mail rewatch, and you've got to romanticize it. You could just get cozy, sit down, and try to quote as much of it as you can while you watch. That just makes it more fun, I think. Now, have any of you ever heard of boo baskets? They're like Easter baskets that you fill with fall or Halloween treats and items and give to your kids on October 1st. But why do we only give these to kids? You know, like, I want a boo basket. And I think it would be so fun for you and your partner, or if you have kids, to make boo baskets for each other. So Jared might get me a Halloween coloring book or a sweatshirt with ghosties on it, like seasoned pumpkin seeds and chocolates, and I might get him socks, a skeleton onesie. I've also seen this garlic peeler that looks like a vampire, which is so cute, or like a mug warmer or a spooky mug. Now for recipes, fall is not only my favorite season for reading, it's also my favorite season to cook and bake. One recipe I have been dying to try for a while now is the Fantastic Mr. Fox nutmeg ginger apple snaps. After seeing these in the movie, I knew I wanted to make them. I love nutmeg and ginger and apple, especially for early fall. I think it would especially be so good if you go to an apple orchard, pick your own apples, and come home to make it. Now, what's more cozy than a soup inside a pumpkin or a gourd? Creamy sage autumn harvest soup. Perfect for a cold autumn evening. I love using seasonal vegetables and a soup. I'm so excited for soup season. I've made apple cider donuts before, but I've never made pumpkin spice donuts. You can get these silicone molds from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby and make these really cute little bite-sized donuts and roll them in cinnamon sugar. Moving on from food, what can you do when you're out and about to keep those fall vibes with you? One thing you can do is listen to a podcast. I have been really enjoying ologies. They're these charming and bizarre stories about what fuels professional ologists' obsessions, like an archaeologist. So they have episodes about, like there's one about crow funerals. I never knew that crows have funerals, but they do. There's also a vampirology episode. Every episode is a different topic, so you can choose whatever topic interests you. For those of you who are really into anything vintage, I think you would really enjoy nostalgic mystery radio. They're real old-timey mystery programs from the radio. Some of the stories I have never heard before, but then they have ones like from Sherlock Holmes. It feels like you're living in the past, listening to a radio program around the fire with the family. If you're wanting something spooky, you've got to check out Two Girls, One Ghost. Join hosts Corinne and Sabrina, bi-coastal best friends, with a questionably unhealthy predilection towards all things strange, spooky, and creepy for heavily researched and listener-submitted tales of the supernatural. They do warn you though, Two Girls, One Ghost is the most haunted podcast in America. Countless listeners have reported that listening leads to encounters with the other side. Listen at your own risk. I haven't done this yet, but I really want to go on a drive at night somewhere where there aren't a lot of streetlights and listen to one of the episodes because I love to scare myself. That feels like how spooky stories should be listened to. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it this fall. So I think that's it. Those are all of my recommendations for you to help get you in the mood for fall. I know that it's the end of August and it's only just barely about to be September, but it flies by so fast. So I recommend trying to start doing some of these things sooner rather than later. If you have any recommendations for me, please leave them down in the comments. I take your recommendations to heart. I write them down. I want to enjoy as many of them as I can. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and thank you to my patrons over in Honeywood Hollow who make this channel possible. And thank you again to Native for sponsoring this video. I love you guys, and stay tuned for my next fall video. We are about to head up to a cabin in Vermont, and I've heard the leaves are starting to change up there already. So I will see you next time from Vermont. Until then, take care of yourselves, and I will see you very soon. Bye, friends.